Chronometry calibrated. The gateway will open in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Analyzing data. Likelihood of parallel universes now at 38%. Continuing analysis of the many worlds hypothesis.
A Few Good Men. Truly a movie that couldn't be made today. Oh, let me guess. You're used to thinking about movies like Blazing Saddles or Ace Ventura, or maybe, if you're that kind of guy, Birth of a Nation. But no, all those movies could be made today with ease. Mel Brooks is coming out with Spaceballs 2 this year, for Christ's sake, and God knows those jerk-offs over at the Daily Whatever are cooking up something as rancid and nationalistic and sickeningly hateful as Birth of a Nation and Ace Ventura combined. Ace Ventura, Race Detective! Nah, this is a movie that couldn't be made today. I can hear you still asking me why. How can you say a fairly by-the-books court drama featuring a feature-length critique of the psychotic, Freudian, and deeply insular American military culture couldn't be made today? I'll tell you why. Because 10 years after the events of this movie in the real Guantanamo Bay, a young JAG officer by the name of Ronald Meatball Ron DeSantis would arrive at Gitmo, not to oversee the brave and dramatic delivery of good old corn-fed American justice, but rather to help the military make the case for force-feeding detainees from all over the globe who were on hunger strike to end their miserable, alleged torture at the hands of our fine boys in drab. Because if you tried to make a movie about military justice in 2026, not even the wildest schoolboy fantasies little Johnny had of getting his gun could blind you to the mountains of now declassified criminal cover-ups perpetrated at locations like Fort Hood. The mental gymnastics required to portray military justice in a positive light in 2026 would give gold medal Olympian gymnast Simone Biles the yips. Tom Cruise would be firing off the world's spiciest monologue in the name of covering up, what do the kids call it now? Grape allegations? And that's just not sexy. That's just not fun at all. Because artists trying to tell the truth, even if flawed in their approach, can't get funding for groundbreaking films because the current regime and its cult-like swarms of yes-men will do anything and everything in their power to ruin the lives of anyone trying to present a worldview that wouldn't fit right in at a military pageant. Not to mention the fact that half or more of Hollywood production giants now sit squarely in the hands of regime-friendly sycophants. Because anyone who tries to bring a shred of critique or quote-unquote negativity to the powers that be of the moment will soon realize one thunderous, resounding truth. They can't handle the truth. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Many Worlds Hypothesis. Today, we are reviewing A Few Good Men, Rob Reiner's star-studded military drama written by Aaron Sorkin. Today, I am joined by Gayfesh.
Hello.
And Moss.
Howdy, howdy.
Hello.
Thank you so much. I feel like we've already reviewed the movie.
Well, it's more like the culture around the movie, or the culture around the movie now, maybe. We still got to say lots about the movie.
I have a love-hate relationship with Aaron Sorkin. I have watched a ton of his shows, like The West Wing, The Newsroom, even Studio 60 on the Sunset Strip, which was his attempt at turning SNL into The West Wing. And there's so much about the way that he writes characters and dialogue that I just really love. But like, there is a level of sanctimony that he brings to all of his characters where, like, my first introduction to him was The West Wing. And I was like, well, of course, these people think that everything they're doing is super important. They're running a country. But then when he brought that same level to, say, people writing a Saturday Night Live show, it was like, okay, he just thinks he's that important. And like I said, it's a love-hate relationship. I think he's very full of himself, but that doesn't mean he doesn't write damn good dialogue. And I think ultimately, and I can't take credit for this comparison, it was something I read on a film blog comment section like 15 years ago, but it really encapsulates him. Aaron Sorkin is Tyler Perry for liberal arts majors.
Okay.
Moss, what are your initial thoughts?
I really enjoyed this movie. This is actually the first Aaron Sorkin thing that I've seen. I'm looking at IMDb and I see this was the first film that he wrote. He's got producer credits on other things and everything, but I find that I'm really partial to movies that remind me of theater. And of course, because this was originally a screenplay and a Broadway production, it has that same feel of, it's really tight. The scenes are really simple. Like there's not like a lot of crazy action set pieces. It's really all driven by the characters and the dialogue. And I saw a movie director once said that like this, the close-up shot is like the most important special effect that you'll ever have access to as a filmmaker. Just like let that performance carry the movie. And this is a, star-studded cast, excellent performances, really brought this thing home for me. And like I did my second watch this morning, and it's hard to figure out what I should skip because I woke up too late to watch the whole movie. Like everything is so dense and tightly packed. And I really, really, really liked it.
Aaron Sorkin is really good at packing dialogue in. Like I think his screenplay for The Social Network clocked in at like, I think it was like almost 200 pages. And in film language, generally speaking, a page of script translates to a minute of time. And they're like, we're not making a 3-hour movie about Mark Zuckerberg. And he's like, no, trust me. I just write lots of dialogue and it can be quick. So like he actually got the cast together to do a table read to show it could be done in 2 hours. So he's,
nice.
Very dialogue heavy, but like if you pace it in Aaron Sorkin style, it works.
I thought the performances were perhaps the most impressive part of this movie. Though I will say, I think the set, lighting, and shot decisions were also very, very good. The performances were super emotive. Everybody seemed to really be feeling their character. Tom Cruise was fantastic. It's one of those times where you go, okay, yeah, that's why this guy became an A-lister.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like, damn, dude. Of course, Jack Nicholson, incredible. Demi Moore is incredible for as long as she's a character. And yeah, no, it was good. And I really did enjoy this movie as well. Although there's this constant presence, as you could tell by my fairly long screed at the beginning of this. There's this presence across the whole movie that makes this movie both age poorly and also stand out as like, again, a type of movie that couldn't be made today. And to be fair to Rob Reiner, also like I do think things have gotten worse. But even then, like there's certain aspects of it that it's just like I remember one part in this movie where I don't remember the exact words. I want to say there was I think it was Joe, the Demi Moore character, and she was talking about, oh, well, these are guys who get shot at. They guard a wall to keep you when you step at night.
Watch.
Yeah, and it's like so so that you and they tell you
to say nothing's gonna hurt you tonight. Yeah,
nothing's gonna hurt you tonight. And I rolled my eyes and just did like a jerk off motion. And I didn't even think about I didn't even think about it before I did that. It was just like it hit me. I'm like, oh my God, shut the fuck up. Yeah. And that was one thing that like hung over the whole movie. The fact that this entire movie was like framed with this national security like language the entire time. It's never doubted. It's just taken as fact.
Because Cuba's such a threat to us.
They're talking about fucking the American presence on a torture base, a black site in Cuba?
Yeah.
My God, like it's in 1992, okay? This isn't like, God, it was painful. The political obliviousness of this film really makes you go, I don't want to be mean because I did think the movie was excellently made, but I kind of want to go back to making The Princess Bride or something like that, because this is not what you should be signing yourself off on.
I mean, it has the same thing as the cops being on your side thing. Like the government is good. There's like a couple of bad actors, but on the whole, the institution is good. Like there's just still some of that buy-in. You've bought into the narrative. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that's Aaron Sorkin is like, he's the arch liberal, the arch institutionalist. He's just like constantly obsessed with this, this idea of like the ideal version of the Constitution and the law. This movie, if there's one thing that this movie jerks off more than the military, it's the law. It's the process of the justice system. And I'm just
he's
like,
a proceduralist.
It makes
he loves the process. Like when he wrote The West Wing was basically just him writing fan fiction, imagining a world where Al Gore won instead of George Bush. And like he's definitely like a blue sky liberal. That is who Aaron Sorkin is. And it shines through. Like it's never more clear than any time he's writing about the military. military. Like this movie, I
Yeah.
think is the most critical he ever gets about the military. Basically every other time he is always treating them with the highest honor, the highest regard. That's just, these are men of honor who are doing everything to keep us safe, and society would crumble without them. That is how he views the military. And it's crazy.
It is crazy. Again, I come from a family that is a military family, and I don't know. I can never get behind these types of sterling presentations of the U.S. military. They just always come off as just blatant propaganda to me. Even when there's a critique, even when there is this because the premise of the film is right there in the title. It's like, oh, well, a few good men will make it all okay. I'll front load my critiques, and say there is a story background piece in this movie that doesn't get a whole lot of time to breathe, but it's kind of important to Tom Cruise's character, which is the fact that that his father oversaw the desegregation lawsuit in Alabama, the Birmingham. And the fact that this movie kind of ends with this, its final note is kind of like, oh, well, you made your dad proud, Sam, the friend lawyer character is kind of he literally says I'd choose you over your father, and that's the movie basically saying you've risen and surpassed undoing desegregation in one of the most racist places in the country. And I'm by clearing these two just following orders shitheads who they're oh, we need, I deserve. And I'm happy at least that the last bit of the movie is that conversation with I forget the two soldiers' names. I don't know. They're
Dawson
Dolly and Dawes.
Whatever.
Dawson, yeah.
Dawson and something that starts with L.
Dawson and James from Twin Peaks, who is such a beautiful man. It's incredible. I don't know, how did God cook that up? My God. Anyway, but Dawson is he has this thing where he's we deserve the final charge because what we should have done is we should have protected the weak or whatever, which it doesn't really mesh with everything else the movie says and presents, but whatever. The fact of the matter is I am happy they present that. But to put that and this case in the text of the film on level with the dad's desegregation win, it makes me go, really?
Yeah.
I don't know. So yeah, there, I front loaded my critiques.
Aaron Sorkin likes to write his character. He fetishizes hyper competence, and it's not just that all of his characters are hyper competent. They always are extremely accredited. Every single character went to an Ivy League school in all of his stuff. I am still kind of just thinking more broadly in terms of Aaron Sorkin's entire body of work. Sorry if I'm not getting as specific with this film, but in The West Wing, the president is a Nobel laureate. It's not enough that his characters are smart. They have to be decorated in their fields. All of them are just hyper competent, hyper accredited.
They're an Einstein Sue.
Yeah, it's he should write Star Trek because this kind of optimism and hyper competence would fit there so well. I honestly, I think if Aaron Sorkin is gonna write anything, he already writes fantasy. He should go into science fiction.
Is that your Star Trek connection for this film?
I can go into my Star Trek connection.
Do it.
Let's segue right into that.
Sure, why not? There's one actor in this movie that is in Star Trek, and I had to dig because he's in one scene. He was one of the JAG officers at the opening scene where Galloway asks to be assigned the thing. He was the guy in glasses. He's in a season 6 episode of DS9.
Okay.
And that's it. But I can stretch it out. Kiefer Sutherland and Xander Berkeley are both in this movie. And while they're not in Star Trek, they were both on 24. And 24 is basically the anti-Star Trek. However, it might surprise you to know that some of the main writers on 24 were also some of the main writers on later seasons of the 90s Star Trek. Manny Coto, who was the Enterprise season 4 showrunner, was executive producer for the last 4 seasons of 24. And Brandon Braga, who's a longtime Star Trek writer, was also an executive producer and writer on 24. So there you go. The Star Trek and the anti-Star Trek all merging
not to
into
go
one.
off on another tangent that's tangential to even that, but I think it's worth sharing here that my primary memory of 24 and therefore of Kiefer Sutherland was my first roommate in college. I left our place for a couple days. I think I was going camping or something. And when I had left, I had gotten these cakes for my birthday. People had given me these cakes and I was like, well, I can't eat all this myself. Do you want these cakes? And my roommate was like, yeah, sure. Okay. And he was like, I'm about to start my watch through of 24. And so I was like, all right. And so I left and I came back and our place was a mess. And he was sitting at his desk watching 24 when I came in, leaning back in his chair with a fork in his hand. The cake was on the ground and he was stabbing the cake and lifting it up to his mouth while locked on to 24. And I was like, are you okay? He's like, yeah, I don't think I've really left this seat much the last few days. And I was just like, oh my God. Oh my God.
It's an addictive show.
It is easy to binge. Yeah.
Yeah.
I witnessed the first like epic level binge where I was just like, good Lord, man. And yeah, so that was funny. That's my memory that I associate with Kiefer Sutherland. Every time I see his face, I think of the cake on the ground and the ants that came the next day.
Oh boy.
Of course the ants
that's
came.
how you get ants.
Yeah, that's how you get. This is truly how you get ants. I really like this movie. Even though I have a lot of critiques of it, I do think that it's a movie that like locks you in no matter where you stand on the subject matter. Now, I will say like my thinking on it after the fact is like I feel like I soured on the movie a little bit. You know, I'm just like come on, like. But I do think the actual watching experience is really great. And again, the sets and the camera work is gorgeous. There's these shots of the courtroom with this like the light streaming in, and you've got this like I think it's the first time they go into the courtroom and Tom Cruise is standing in there and he's like by himself or like near the front of the courtroom, and there's like all this golden light pouring in and these intricately designed and stately architecture, and it is absolutely gorgeous. There's also at the very beginning of the movie there is this thing I've noticed across Rob Reiner's films is really, really lovingly made aviation shots, whether it is helicopters or airplanes. And there's this shot of the airplanes flying into Cuba that is just like, I'm like, wow, that is just the blue of the water. And you can see all of the Cuban beaches rolling underneath this plane. And it's so steady. And I'm like, oh God, that's gorgeous.
There was a shot that I was like, I had to look up. I was like, okay, this was 1992 because I was trying to ascertain like whether this was CGI or maybe it's just a comp shot or like, is that a real place that they were in Cuba? They're in the Jeep, the military vehicle. And
yes.
There's you see the back of the vehicle as it's going down this winding hill, and the entire right 2/3 of the screen is just beautiful beach and ocean. And for a second, I actually had to go back, even though I was on limited time this morning.
It's a matte painting, right?
I don't think it is. It's
really
well. If it is a matte painting, then they did the same trick that they did in the Dark Crystal with that long shot, where there were some holes in the painting and the light was moving underneath the painting to make the ocean like light up, like with the reflecting light off of the surface of the water.
I really thought that was a matte painting because me and my roommate who I was watching it with were like, wow, that is gorgeous.
Beautiful shot.
So they filmed the Gitmo scenes in SoCal at Crystal Cove State Park, Fort MacArthur, and Naval Air Station Point Mugu. So
okay,
I think those were all real shots.
Seems like it's probably in camera. Wow.
Yeah.
Really? I wish there was a way to know for sure, because I was pretty sure that one shot in particular was a matte. We both were like, but maybe it wasn't. Even regardless, this type of filmmaking is a lost art. And I mean it. It's truly a lost art. And it makes me so sad. Every time I watch a movie, I go, oh man, like we're eating so poorly right now compared to just the type of stuff.
Remember when people knew how to do lighting?
Yeah, lighting, obviously, like that's the biggest one that stands out in all these like blue room, green room made things. But it's just like, remember when people used to go places to make a movie? They would say, all right, everybody, let's go outside to a really cool, actual real location you can visit in the real world that somebody could go and say, wow, this is that thing that I saw in that movie. That's so cool. And it's just like, it's obviously it still does happen. And weirdly enough, sometimes more in TV, depending. Like, you have the whole thing of like the Game of Thrones series with all its flaws was filmed in Romania or Croatia, not Romania, Croatia. Yeah. And like a lot of those were like just really gorgeous exterior shots. But it's so rare that compared to where it used to be. And not to be like all nostalgic lost, but it really is a lost art. This ability to just sort of conjure up a fairly believable simulacra at a moment's notice in exchange for actually going to a place. And it makes me sad.
Of course, they didn't actually go to Cuba, but they still went to a nice place.
They went to a place that sells the image of it. Yeah, you can't always if you make a movie, okay, not everyone is going to be like Werner Herzog. Every person is going to be able to go to like a war zone and film something. But but there's an art in portraying it. There's an art in making it believable as that place. For some reason, I thought of Breaking Bad and the yellow filter.
Anytime they're in Mexico, the
anytime they're in Mexico, yeah. Which this movie, one of the first scenes in Cuba is like very yellow, and my roommate, as we were watching, was like, "Are they doing the piss filter?" And I was like, "No, that's just they're shooting in daylight on daylight film, and it has a yellow tinge by default." And you notice that later in the movie that any of the like super bright daylight shots have this like yellow warmth, and I don't know, it's not that type of like digitally altered. We just cranked the yellow hue up.
I want to say a couple things that I liked about the movie. The opening credits thing was very satisfying with all of the like synchronized movements. Like it went on for a really long time, and I skipped it this morning when I was watching it again. But like, man, there was just something real satisfying about that for my autistic brain. Speaking of autism, Demi Moore is so autistic in this movie.
Oh yeah.
Violently autistic. And I love it.
It's perfect. Honestly, I love that aspect of her. Yeah, no, those are I agree with both of those.
And still fucking it up.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the callback at the end when she's like trying to ask about the seafood dinner and she fucks up the line. I love that. It's like I'm happy that they didn't like bring any attention to it. Like it's not like it's like, hey, you messed up your line. Are you nervous or something? Which would be like that's like 2026.
I love how she repeatedly doesn't pick up on things. It's like, would you like to have a seat? No, I'm good. Sit down. Why don't you grab a cup of coffee? No, I'm good. Leave the room so we can talk about you behind your back.
I love that part.
It was so funny. And like later as well, when they're in Cuba, which this is an amazing scene, the lunch table in Cuba.
Oh my God.
Such an amazing scene. And like, Tom Cruise is like, yeah, we're leaving now. Bye. And she's like, no, I have more questions. And he's like, shut the fuck up. Like, I just love that she doesn't pick up on it at all.
Yeah.
I like that she figures it out later what he was doing there.
Yeah. Feeling out the Colonel. Yeah.
Yeah. That she's like, oh, you didn't care about the paperwork. You wanted to see his reaction. And I'm like, it's well done. That is the
like
part
he was
of the
being
Aaron Sorkin
sent
writing
to Cuba,
that's like, I do love.
So he took advantage of it. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, exactly. And like, I agree that, that lunch scene, like, so the tension is so good. And
Jack Nicholson plays a bastard so well.
Yeah.
Oh
he
my
really
God.
does.
He's such an asshole. There's a part, sorry, you're going to have to probably edit this, but there's a part where he says, you standing there in your whites and
with your Harvard mouth.
With your Harvard mouth. And I'm like, okay, he wants to fuck this twink so bad, first of all. And secondly, I learned now that has got to be the most backfire version of that you can possibly say. When you say you seem like more of the than the person you're calling it. Am I wrong? He's like, you're whites. And I'm just like, oh.
This entire sentence just beep, 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 beep.
I'm gonna bleep so much of this fucking episode.
If you haven't seen the movie, he calls him the F slur for gay people.
Maybe we could put up on the screen here or have like a little cut in from Gay Fesh here that's just like, go check. Do we have a Patreon? I can't remember.
No, it's on Spotify as well. I don't need to censor things on Spotify, so it's fine.
Good.
It's fine.
So yeah, tell them to go check the Spotify one.
So that you can hear DemonMama say like 50 times.
Yeah, 15 times.
Yeah.
Oh, guilty as charged.
Also, it's like using sexuality to undercut someone's importance, which happens several times in this movie.
Yes.
There's that line.
Oh, yes.
And it happens twice to Lieutenant Galloway, because the first time she's really given it to Tom Cruise. She's like, I'm going to ask your superior officer to like replace you, or like your supervisor or whatever, to get you off this case. And he's like, I'm sexually aroused. And then she just moves past it. And then again in that lunch scene, like, oh, if you've never gotten a blowjob from a commanding officer, whatever, you're not living. I just got to wait till they make some gal president. And it's like, yeah, she just kind of like can't respond. She just like, that's like a way that men can undercut a woman's assertiveness and power. And she just fucking doesn't, she just rolls through it. She's like, nah. I'm not going to be sidelined by this.
I mean, I think that the movie does a very good job of presenting that in a way that, like, yeah, I was like, oh, okay. The first time it happened, I'm like, all right, I mean, this could become a trend. And it didn't really. It kind of kept it where it was at while being like, this is in your face. I don't know. A lot of movies don't handle the portrayal of sexism very well. And I will give some kudos to Aaron Sorkin for doing a good job of presenting it without just leaning into it too much and just making it like, this is now like just a part of the whole story and whatever. And like, you're kind of just doing it anyway. Like, I don't know.
It's interesting that both the good guy and the bad guy do it, though.
Yeah.
Aaron Sorkin did really fight, though, for certain things. Like, the studio wanted him to throw in a sex scene with Demi Moore and Tom Cruise. And he's just like, that is not the story that I'm telling. And they're like, well, why would this character be a woman if she's not going to fuck Tom Cruise? He's like, because women exist for purposes other than to have sex with Tom Cruise.
She is the only woman, though. So, yeah, it must have been an uphill battle. Yeah. Like, they lip service, that when Jack Nicholson is like, the men and women who serve this country, blah, 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 blah. But she's the only woman, or I guess there's a secretary at the very beginning of the movie. There's another woman.
Oh, and there's Auntie.
Yeah, she's not in the military, though. So
no, she's not in the military. Yeah.
But I do love that scene where the aunt is, where he's like, oh, your Aunt Jane, or I can't remember her name, but she's like, Jenny. He's like, oh, you're Aunt Jenny, your Aunt Jenny. I thought you were going to be older, and she's like, yeah, I thought you were going to be older.
Yeah.
Like, oh, like that's a good one. That was a good one.
Yeah, I like the arc that Tom Cruise's character goes through, because he is the guy who's like, look, I know how to haggle and I know how to work things down. I try to avoid a courtroom as much as possible, which, like, I understand why lawyers do that. Yeah, like, I understand why lawyers plea things out. They have massive caseloads and they can't take everything to court. But you don't want to watch a movie about people who please everything out. And so it's good to see him actually, fight for something. Apparently, Tom Cruise said he based his performance off of David Miscavige, the head of Scientology.
Oh boy. It goes back a long way for him, I guess.
Yeah. He was already a big, like, he got paid $12 million for this movie, so he was already a star at this point.
Okay.
And yeah, Top Gun had already been a big thing. So yeah, I just saw that and I'm like, oh boy.
I mean, that does make sense. There's one thing you know about David Miscavige, it's that he knows how to play with the legal system. So
I know the law. Funniest line in the movie, TBH.
I loved when Tom Cruise did his Jack Nicholson impression. And apparently that wasn't scripted. And so, like, Kevin Pollak and Demi Moore's reactions are genuine because they were not expecting to hear a Jack Nicholson impression.
One thing I wanted to say about Tom Cruise in this movie, the scene where he is drunk, he's terrible at pretending to be drunk. That was one of the worst, like, fake drunk guy performances until he got angry, at which point I'm like, okay, so this guy can do anger, but he can't do, like, he like was trying to, like, slur his normal, like, cockiness, and it just came off as very, like, juvenile. And, like, I don't know if he drinks or whatever, or like, I don't know. I don't remember if Scientology has restrictions on that.
I think they probably do.
I found that very distracting. The other thing that I wanted to say about this movie that I really love is the relationship between Sam and Tom Cruise's character. That is, it is so, like, homo-romantic throughout the whole movie. And there's this, like, gay playfulness. Like, there's literally a part where they share the baby's first words together. I don't think we ever see Sam's wife in the entire movie. I don't think we ever do. And instead he's just living at Tom Cruise's character's house, and they're, like, talking about their baby. They're walking their baby together. They're, like, they're talking, they're, like, having these little squabbles and differences. And I'm just like, that's so beautiful. Like, I wish we could have more of that.
It did kind of look like the man who played Sam had never pushed a pram in his life, though. Like, he was so awkward with that thing. Yeah. It looked like he'd never done it before.
Kevin Pollak, he was not the original choice to play Sam. They brought him in because their original choice was Jason Alexander. But then Seinfeld got picked up for a second season, so he had a scheduling conflict. But I would like to see the version of this movie with Jason Alexander playing that role.
Oh, the vibe would be so different.
It would be different, but they both play deadpan snarker very well.
Yeah, but like this guy has a grounded realism that keeps that like can balance the endless like
Jason Alexander can do
rant.
grounded realism. You're just thinking of him and all of his like explicitly comedic things. He can.
I know. I'm not saying he can't. I'm just saying that the actor they had, I think, was perfect for the role. He had such a realism to him that I really appreciated. That he's like the least bombastic of the entire cast that we encounter. And I mean the entire cast, because of course you've got the deranged Kiefer Sutherland character and the deranged Jack Nicholson character, and what's his name? I think he's played by like JT or JD Walsh, the guy who's
Walsh.
the Aviators guy.
Yeah.
His character is like, this is a little tangent, but yesterday I was at a bookstore. It was a used bookstore, and I was looking through a bunch of books, and I walked through this like spirituality and witchcraft and occult section. And I saw one book that immediately made me go, good Lord. It was a book about the teachings of the Order of Nine Angles, which if anyone is not familiar with this is a occult left-hand path, quote unquote, neo-Nazi terrorist group that has operated. And one of the like people who built on some of the teachings of the Order of Nine Angles was a former CIA PSYOP director who, after retiring from the military, founded a temple known as the Temple of Set, which was a pseudo-satanic theistic Satanist cult. And this guy looked just like the guy with the aviators in this movie and had like the same vibe of like this guy who's like, you know, he's like sitting there smoking. He's like, you don't know what I've seen, man. And it's like, you don't know, I'm not proud of what I've perpetrated or what I'm perpetrating now. And like, I was just like, oh, this guy was a great presence on screen and also a wild, bombastic ad to the later part of the movie where he's like, I'm going to dress up in my fancy clothes and then shoot myself in the mouth.
Yeah.
I kind of felt like his character, they didn't know how best to integrate him into the rest of the film. I kind of felt like his part was the least polished part of the film. Like, I liked his character. I wish that it just, because like you see him once, you see him being the lone voice of reason at the office in Gitmo in the flashback, and then you don't see him again until he shows up in the car. And like they had said his name several times, like, oh, he's missing, but like I completely missed who they were even talking about until he showed up again. I'm like, oh right, okay, that guy.
He just kind of appears in the car and does a jump scare.
I get it, he's like a fake hope spot. You're like, oh sweet, this guy is testifying, hell yeah, and then he dies, so like, you know, they have to come up with something else.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
I felt like they could have done more to better integrate it and to like, I don't know, play up his paranoia a little more. He seemed a little, I don't know.
I also felt like there was not adequate justification for why Dawson doesn't like Danny, like the man of color that they're representing in the trial. He like has this sort of subtle dislike toward Kathy, and he's like, he points it out. He's like, you don't like me much, do you? And then he's like, no, don't answer that question. And I did feel like there was a lack of really kind of establishing why. A lot of the Dawson characterization is little things that you would miss, like the fact that he, you know, he's still a lance corporal because he broke orders by giving food to another guy who was being denied food for punishment reasons, and that he probably didn't want to, like, so actually it does come out as well in the trial. The private says that Dawson wouldn't allow code reds for Santiago, probably because he was protecting him in an ongoing fashion, like that Santiago had been fucking up all these things over and over again, but he was struggling and having these health issues, and he was socially isolated and everything. And so Dawson, like sleeper mode, like kind of in the background, he's got this very, you know, marine posture and like, you know, I'll accept the consequences, whatever, I did what I was supposed to do. But
he's a true believer.
But he, it's not just that I actually think that he's not a true believer in some ways, because he defied an order to not feed one of his like unit for him, I guess, in the sense that like he's a true believer that unit is number one for him. So his immediate men surrounding him, he's trying to look out for them. He didn't want to pull a code red on Santiago. He thought that was unethical, but he did it because he knew that there would be reprimand if he didn't follow the direct order to do the code red from Kendrick. But I did feel like there was, you know, because all that stuff is sort of happening in the background, like if you're not really listening closely to the dialogue, like you'd miss it. But why does he dislike Danny so much? I felt like that was
Danny isn't military. not really.
Yeah, sure. Fair enough.
He's here to pad his resume so that when he goes out into civilian law, that he's got some jag time under his belt. I mean, and like Sam is explaining to him basic military things like converting 24-hour time to 12-hour time.
You needed to ask what a fence line was. You couldn't figure that out from context.
Yeah. So like he does not care about, he doesn't have some code of honor, like, and there's also the whole, Navy Marine rivalry thing going on that Kiefer Sutherland's character lays out. He's like, oh, you guys really help shipping us off to go fight places while you sit on your boat. And so I think that's just part of it. I think there's the Navy Marine rivalry and the fact that he is not a career officer and he does not actually care about the service other than it's a job for him.
He doesn't really respect a lot of the procedures as well. Like he immediately is like, stop calling me sir. I don't like it.
That brings me to another thing that I think was a critique I had for this movie with regard to character development. And that is Demi Moore's character, Joe, I feel for the latter half plus of the movie is not really given any character movement or development or really much time at all. She kind of comes into the movie and has this great presence in the beginning, and then she delivers a massive dialogue payload that convinces Tom Cruise to take on the case, and then she just kind of doesn't do anything much for the rest of the movie. And that's a real bummer because I think her character was super interesting and she should have been given more of a role. But unfortunately, I think it's a common occurrence in movies. It's one of the ways that like underlying sexism unfolds, which is that women characters, they're the first ones to lose screen time when you have to pick from a large cast of characters. Like, we can't cut an extra scene with Kevin Bacon, or we can't cut an extra scene with whatever. We have to like reduce this character because you know why. And it's not even, I don't even think that people do it 100% knowledgeably. Like, I don't doubt that Aaron Sorkin has it's obvious in this movie, he has critiques of sexism and sexist culture in the military and whatnot. But it's unfortunate because she is, am I misremembering in saying the movie literally opens on her? Like,
she's the first line of dialogue.
The movie opens on the code red, but yeah, she's the first one to show up after the Marines do their whole, fancy twirly thing.
They do kind of make a joke of it a little bit because at some point Tom Cruise is like, let's take tonight off. We'll regroup tomorrow. And he tells her like, you go do whatever it is you do when you're not here. And it's like, I feel like that's kind of, it's lampshading it, or at least it's a little bit meta aware of itself that like this woman hasn't really gotten much. Yeah, we don't know about her outside of work.
It's kind of funny too, because that character is actually based on Aaron Sorkin's sister, who was the JAG officer involved in the actual Gitmo Code Red incident that this script was based on.
Oh, so it is based on something. Okay, cool.
Yeah, they don't say it's based on a real story, but it was. Aaron Sorkin was talking to his sister, who was the Galloway in the real case on this, and that's what inspired him to write the play. So, it's him being sexist to his own sister.
Yeah, like make her the main character.
Having wives and daughters and sisters doesn't keep men from being sexist.
No.
Yeah, but I mean also, and there's that for sure. Exactly. But also there's the aspect of like, you start to see where industries have just such entrenched interests, where it's like, well, you got to give the A-lister guy the most space. He's got to be the main character because he'll make the most money, and he'll make the most money because he confirms the pre-existing comforts and biases of, in short, they can't handle the truth.
Yeah.
Excellent line delivery on that. Although I will say that by the end of that section, I was like, okay, it's getting a little much. Like, there's a little hokey.
The screaming at each other at that point, the judge would have absolutely stopped it. But, that's one of those allowances that they make.
Was he not trying?
Film. It's a movie.
I feel like there was a lot of crosstalk. Like, Jack Ross was talking and Tom Cruise was talking, and the judge was like trying to pull it into order. And like, there's just a lot of steamrolling at that part, which I think would put you in contempt probably.
Yeah. My favorite part of Jack Nicholson's courtroom appearance is when he's like throwing his rank around like a big dick. He's like, you'll address me as Colonel or Sir. I've earned that. And, then the judge instructs Tom Cruise to do that. And then he goes up to the box and whispers to the judge, what kind of operation you running here? And then the judge is like, you'll refer to me as Judge or Your Honor. I've definitely earned that. And it was him forgetting that he is no longer on his base face and he's no longer the one in command in the situation.
Yeah, you can't talk to people like that.
It's good. The Aaron Sorkin monologue fest, it does get a little fatiguing after a while. And I've definitely felt that towards the end of this movie where I'm like, you can only do so many of these before you start to go, oh, here we go again. And somebody's getting a big, awesome own. And there is a punchiness and a snappiness to it that makes the movie go. And thankfully, I don't think it overstays its welcome much in this movie because they wrap it up pretty well with the, you can't handle the truth and the following argument. I would say it crosses over a little into like the area where I'm like, okay, when he's like, I'm going to beat the shit out of Kevin Bacon. I'm like, okay, all right. He's really like the dumb guy, the like dumb evil guy is losing his cool that badly. And like the cool lawyer, even the one who's like the lawyer you don't want to like is like, oh, he's keeping his cool. It's just like, okay, all right, we get it. The movie has this tendency, which you mentioned with the contempt of court thing. The movie does have a tendenty of, and that student was Albert Einstein. It has a little bit of that, like,
clapped.
Yeah.
And everyone clapped. It's like, oh, the teacher dropped his chalk and the room was silent. And then everyone clapped. And it's like, okay, all right now.
I'm positive Aaron Sorkin must have written one of those things that goes around in email chains. That's definitely the way that, did you see when somebody asked Aaron Sorkin how he would write, like, what would his version of 2020 be? Like, how would he write it? Where the Republican Party would stand arm in arm and be like, Mr. President, sir, it's time to step down. So it's like,
delusion.
Like, you live in a fantasy world, man.
And it really is one of those things where, again, I'll just appeal back to the beginning of this podcast. You couldn't make a movie like this in 2026, partially because nobody buys that crap anymore. No, it is so impossible to sit here in 2026 and go, oh yeah, all we need is a few good guys to fix this shit. And oh God, just the Iraq. I just did a Freudian slip. I meant to say the Iran war. The Iran war. And I said the Iraq wars. It's happening again. It is happening again.
We're looping.
And we're looping and we're
Time is a
looping,
flat
but
circle.
we're looping and it's like that. Oh damn it! I can't think of the artist, the musician that did the tracks where it keeps playing through and re-recording the same tracks on tape as they degrade. That beautiful album where it's like each one is like the actual tape is degrading. That's where we're at. We are repeating history and it's just the tape is ripping apart and there's the holes in it. None of us have been able to process the absolute institutional rampage that has been going on. The weaponization, the cold weaponization and or outright destruction of all institutions. The fact that USA aid is gone. The fact that we have a Crusader Kings 2 playing head of the Department of Defense who identifies as the Department of War. And he's sitting here going, we're just not woke anymore, when asked about why they double tapped a children's school. It's sickening. And so the Aaron Sorkin stuff it can't fly. You can't sit there and go, oh yeah, I dreamed that the Republicans would go, Mr. Trump, you're a Cheeto pedo. And it's just like, it's never going to happen. You're living truly in a fantasy that rivals that of Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
Not to be depressing, but it is depressing.
I'm way better than you at turning that part of my brain off while I'm watching a film, is what I'm learning.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm not really, I'm just engaging in a the whole thing is a fantasy. The whole thing might as well be a fantasy.
Yeah.
Gitmo might as well be a fantasy because of how unrealistic all of this stuff is. And, it's like the fact that there's a clear-cut bad guy, that the opponent lawyer is like friends. They're on the same softball team with the
that part is true though. Like lawyers are like, when they're not in the courtroom, they're all colleagues. So there's
but
a lot
he's a
of
good
that
guy.
stuff.
What I'm saying is all of these characters are good guys except for the one guy and his lackey. Like legitimately, it's like the Sith. It's like the rule of the Sith, the rule of two. And there's a bunch of Jedi good guys, but it's just like silly. It's silly the degree to which you're buying into this. The government as a whole is good. The military as a whole is good. A couple of bad actors who are understandable because the movie also does portray those kind of rigid deviations from by the book. I say rigid deviations, but like they do these code reds and it's very rigid, and the desire to handle things in-house and the stakes that they're operating under it's all like, it's even all of that stuff is still justified to an extent. That doing the code reds is understandable if unethical. And yeah, understandable if unethical, I think is kind of the underpinning of how they approach even the bad guy in this movie.
Yeah, and I do try to meet movies where they're at, but it is true that I think I do have a harder time disarming that part of my brain when it is something with the stakes that are this high. It's just, I don't know, I guess I can't. And, you know, to a certain degree, maybe that makes me like a worse critic overall, or just a particular type of critic. And I'll be a little vulnerable here in my personal life. I have not been able to stop thinking about Iran. I have not been able to stop thinking about the fact that right now the president is literally saying just outright, we are going to blow up your desalination plants for water. We're going to destroy your civilian infrastructure. Like they're saying they're going to blow up roads and hospitals just openly. And it makes me sick. It makes me so sad, so deeply sad. And maybe that makes me a worse critic, or maybe, or whatever, or just a particular type, you know, it's hard.
I think there's different levels. You know, we can talk about the movie itself, but it exists in a context. So yeah, there's different levels that you can approach a movie. We can talk strictly about what's in the movie, but yeah, it doesn't exist in a vacuum, unfortunately. And like, yes, the situation in 1990 was different, but we still had fucking Gitmo, where like my entire life, I've just known since I was a teenager that we allegedly torture people, and that's just kind of and that they don't get due process. And, you know, if you're declared an enemy of the United States, like you could just be put there. And that's crazy. It's like that's at the root of this story.
Yeah, it is. And and that's not even the worst, is the craziest thing, because there's things like Abu Ghraib and other black sites that are further away from home. I guess it's just like, for me, maybe it would be easier if it was a made up location. If it didn't go, oh, Guantanamo Bay, you mean the place that I, as a teenager, had to have a moral crisis over after learning that the US military was trying to inject feeding tubes into the people that they'd tortured to the brink of starvation, like
waterboarding people and shit. Yeah.
Waterboarding and
Waterboarding at Guantanamo Bay does sound like a fun time if you don't know what any of those words are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But to lighten things up before we end, I should note that Christopher Guest was again in a Rob Reiner movie.
Yes.
That man's a fucking chameleon.
He's haunting me.
I didn't recognize him until the second time through. He's the doctor on the stand. And it's just,
I immediately was like, wait.
He must have been in every movie that I've ever seen, and I just never realized it. It's like how it used to be, like with Gary Oldman. It used to be, I have seen Gary Oldman in so many movies, and I could not tell you what that man looks like.
Yeah.
I guess it's Christopher Guest for me now.
Now that I've seen him, like, because I've seen him many, many times, because I've watched The Princess Bride many, many times, but watching him in Spinal Tap without the facial hair, now I'm like,
wild.
Yeah, now I know what he looks like. And I saw him and I was like, wait. I like paused the movie. I Googled it. I was like, oh my God, he's haunting me now. Like that's what's happening.
It really is impressive. Yeah, I was happy to see him in this movie again. I think Rob Reiner's got a good crew of regulars that he pulls on, and I love that. I don't know what it is. There's just something special to me. Obviously, there's a few directors that take it a little too far. You know, we have what's his name there? Helena Bonham Carter and Johnny Depp and
Tim Burton.
Tim Burton, thank you. I kept thinking Tim Curry. I'm like, that's
it's
not
a little
the one.
incestuous. Yeah,
that's a little much.
For Tim Burton, I'm pretty sure he just has a cuckold kink
and
just wants to watch. Yeah. So
it's a polycule and of some variety. But like some take it a little too far. But I generally love it when like a director finds their people and just knocks it out of the park with that cast in so many different ways. It's like it's cool. I think it's a great thing to see. And Christopher Guest is one of those. So in the end, I will say I did like this movie.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. One final thing before we sign off is there was a line read that the judge gave when he's berating Tom Cruise, and he goes, "Watch yourself, counselor." And he said it in the exact intonation that I heard from John Mulaney's stand-up bit about Law and Order, when he's just like, I'll allow it, but you watch yourself, counselor. Like, it was the exact same intonation. And so I'm just imagining the judge suddenly turning into John Mulaney. Anyway,
so what's next?
So next we've got
a bucket list,
which I have not seen.
Me neither.
I have seen this one, believe it or not.
Oh wow. Okay, well then I guess you'll
long time ago.
Anyway, I've been Gayfesh.
I'm Lux or Moss or whatever I'm going by on this show.
Oh yeah, Moss. Yeah, and I'm DemonMama. and you can't handle the truth.
We'll catch you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.